Tonight we're going to start off with our introductory statements from the candidates, and we're going to start on the left-hand side with John Mann. So you're up. Thank you.
There was a candidate named Mann. 12 times for city council he ran. A virtual town hall, democracy for all. Transparency, accountability is my plan. Now, the reason I'm running is, I'm not your typical politician. I'm not running for the normal reasons. I'm running because I want to shake up this election. And I think because of the chaos that's been created since 2012 with all the development, I think there's a revolution going on now among the residents. And I've been expecting more of a confrontation about Santa Monica's renters' rights. Everybody's focusing on development. I want to focus on the corruption and the conflict of interest and cronyism. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Michael Feinstein.
So hi, Michael Feinstein. I am a 30-year resident, a former mayor and city council member, both as an activist and an office holder. I've got a strong record of opposing overdevelopment, promoting neighborhood-friendly zoning, and a lot more parks and open space. I'm a very positive, solutions-oriented, hardworking person. I try and listen and learn from everybody and build consensus. And if you bless me by putting me back in office, I'll work really hard for you, and I'm excited to hear your questions tonight. Thank you.
Next we have Frank Gruber.
Yeah, hi. I moved to Santa Monica more than 30 years ago, and it wasn't long before I got involved in the community. I have a record that goes back more than 20 years through community groups and city commissions. And in the column I wrote for The Lookout. I helped develop policies to support schools and build parks, protect neighborhoods, provide social services, and better the environment. I also have the reputation for calling things as I see them. I also have the skills from my work as a lawyer, city commissioner, and critical observer to govern effectively. As a council member, I will fight for real solutions to the traffic problem, protect city services, oppose big office development, and ensure that our public schools and programs for early childhood education, youth, and other social programs remain strong. I'm proud to have been endorsed by Community for Excellent Public Schools, the LA League of Conservation Voters, the Santa Monica Police and Firemen's Associations, Unite Here Local 11, and local leaders from across the political spectrum. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Jennifer Kennedy.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Kennedy, and I'm running for City Council because I believe I have the experience to control growth in Santa Monica, to continue to prevent overdevelopment, preserve our residential neighborhoods, improve our city's public process, and protect Santa Monica's unique community character. As I've done during my time on the Planning Commission, I will continue to defend our residential neighborhoods from the adverse impacts of nearby commercial areas. I'll continue to strengthen renter protections and work to keep rents affordable as I've done as an elected member of the Rent Control Board for 8 years. I know that better infrastructure, more open space, wider sidewalks, accessible art and cultural opportunities, real living wage jobs for working families, and affordable housing should never be an afterthought. As a community activist in Santa Monica, I don't just go to Planning Commission meetings. I spend my time between meetings advocating for all of these efforts in Santa Monica to improve and enhance the beautiful city that we love. I'm Jennifer Kennedy, and I ask for your vote.
Thank you. Okay, next is Terrence Slater. Yeah.
Hi, Terrence Slater, votenowforlater.com is my website. I'm a lifelong resident of Santa Monica. I spent my life, I'm three generation Santa Monican. I spent my life supporting my community, and it's a beautiful night tonight. Tonight is the anniversary, the second anniversary of the landmarking of the Chez J restaurant, which I spearheaded the community effort to save that when they put the $100 million Tongva Park into place. They wanted to knock that down. I've spent a lot of time in my life here looking to make our town a better place, and when elected, I will do just that, protecting our landmarks, our educational system, supporting our police and fire department, and reaching out to those seniors in need and lifting them up because they are the true treasure of our community. Vote now for later. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next we have Kevin McEwen.
Well, thank you all for being here tonight. I'm Kevin McEwen. It looks like I'm the only incumbent who showed up tonight. In my time on the city council, I have a rock-solid record of voting for residents. And I'm running again because our hometown is in the crosshairs of overdevelopment right now. I've already proven I know how and when to say no to bad projects. I opposed the eviction of 50 rent-controlled households at 301 Ocean Avenue. I voted against the shameful eviction of vulnerable seniors at Bilfers Trailer Park. And of course, I voted against the Heinz project, which was way too big and would have generated far too much traffic. I've worked over the years with all of our neighborhood groups. I've worked with Northeast Neighbors on protecting A-Lots, Sunset Park with the airport, Mid-City with car dealers, NOMA with Monster Mansions, Wilmont on the 14th and Wilshire Activity Center, and OPA on the uses at Edgemar. I've worked with PICO on new zoning protections for that neighborhood against gentrification and displacement. I want to keep working for you for another 4 years. I'm Kevin McEwen.
Thank you. Next we have Richard McKinnon.
I'm Richard McKinnon and I'm running for City Council. And I'm running to control development that overwhelms, it overshadows and it threatens every part of our city today. And we know that we will be rejecting much of what is proposed. I run to put residents first, and this neighbourhood knows why that's so important. And I run to deal with the great challenge of climate change that's affecting our life and lifestyle already. I run to protect neighbourhoods, to rebuild the community that's been shattered here these last few years, and to put people at the centre of everything. And I run because I bring a powerful and clear record as a planning commissioner, as a Parks and Recreation Commissioner, as an advocate for schools in the 14 years since we arrived from Australia as immigrants to work so that you can answer that question and I can ask you to answer the question, who is the person you trust most to be on the City Council leading this city going forward? Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Phil Brock.
Hi, I'm Phil Brock. I believe I'm an optimist. And I believe all of us here in the audience tonight are optimists. Because we have to believe that the traffic concerns in our city have to be made better. That we don't have to look 20 years from now at a palm tree and see a building behind it. We believe as optimists that we will look at that palm tree, our children, our grandchildren will look at that palm tree and see sky behind it. We're optimists because we believe Wilshire Boulevard doesn't have to be packed with 6-story buildings. We're optimists because we believe every street in our city doesn't have to be shadowed by big buildings. That's why I'm an optimist. I'm from this town. I've been here all my life. I ask for your vote on November 4th. I'm Phil Brock.
Next we have Nick Bowles.
Hi everybody, my name is Nick Bowles, and I believe that Santa Monica has historically been an incubator for innovation, as well as a home to a diverse array of communities, and a great oasis away from the craziness that is LA. And I think that the best way forward is through collaboration. And working as a nonprofit consultant, I've found that the most beneficial procedures and programs, as well as funding to a lot of purpose-driven organizations, has come through that very collaboration. Collaboration between nonprofits with governments to make sure that there's funding set up, as well as collaboration between communities and nonprofits, as well as businesses, to make sure that every mission-driven organization is able to accomplish what their purpose is. Thank you.
Next we have Sue Himmelrich.
Hi, I'm Sue Himmelrich, 22-year resident of Santa Monica. I'm an attorney at Western Center on Law and Poverty. And I'm asking for your vote because we are at a crucial time. This city will rise or fall in the next 4 years because we will either become the playground of the 1% or 0.1%, or we will be the city that we love and that has a fabric that we love. It's hard to sum up 61 years in 30 seconds, so let me just say that I'm a lifelong Democrat. I did my first campaign when I was 18 years old, before I could even vote. It's why I'm endorsed by the Santa Monica Democratic Club and LA County Democratic Party. I've been a strong voice for the residents, which is why the endorsement of Santa Monica Coalition for a Livable City and Santa Monicans for Renters' Rights. And finally, I just got the endorsement of the Sierra Club, and I'm very proud of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Whitney Scott Bain.
Hello, my name's Whitney Scott Bain. How are you doing tonight? Good? Okay. Well, I've lived here for 44 years, and I've seen it grow for the good, grow for the bad. I'm very pro-airport, like Mr. Leader is. We're the only two candidates that are pro-airport. I believe in the seniors. I visit the Ken Edwards seniors twice a week, and they're wonderful, wonderful people. We've got to do something for our community. What we've got to do is we've got to give them a crosswalk. We've got to, right across the way from the Ken Edwards Center all the way to the mall. We've got to put in a permanent ice rink for the families that are here. We've got to do things for our community and not the tourists. They come and they go, and then they leave. They spend their money, but we need to take care of ourselves first. Thank you.
Thank you. Last one, Jerry Rubin.
Thank you very, very much. Jerry Rubin, proud resident of Santa Monica, and like most of the candidates up here, I urge you to vote no on Proposition D, and yes on Proposition LC regarding the airport. And I think we're supported by the League of Women Voters, just about every neighborhood group, the Sierra Club, on and on. You can go to the websites and check it out, and I bought some literature. Please take it, because it's probably the most important issue facing Santa Monica today. What's going to happen with that ballot initiative and the airport in 2015. I want to take the last few seconds to thank Tricia, Amy, and everybody from Northeast Neighbors for hosting this candidate forum. I want to thank all the other groups that have invited all the candidates, including Santa Monica High School, Santa Monica Next, Concerned Residents Against Airport Pollution, JCs, and everyone. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Jerry. And later on, we do have one more. Zoe, if you would like to give a brief opening statement, come on down. You have 1 minute to give an opening statement.
Hi, my name is Zoe Montaner. My name means life. I want to talk about voting, because voting is the way you reclaim your power. After 2 years of what you've seen in this city, it's time for you to exercise your power again. If you have felt powerless, this is your opportunity to exercise your power again. So voting is no joke. You have to be very serious, and you have to educate yourself about this vital aspect of our society, our democratic society. You can learn about me in my website. You can learn about me in the press. They call me a hurricane, yes, because I make waves, because I tell the truth. So next Monday, you're invited to go to see a documentary called Pay to Play that talks about finance in campaign and money in campaigns, because some of our candidates buy their way into city council. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. All right, thank you. We'll hang on to this. And why don't we give that to Tricia. So we're going to start with our questions, and each of the candidates will have 30 seconds to answer. And they're going to be asked by a number of members of our community, and I'm going to start off. The first question, why don't we start in the middle? We'll start with Phil. And then we're going to move this way, and then we'll go back to Richard, move the other way. So start with Phil.
Amy, one quick point. If people don't applaud, but you actually listen, we'll probably save about 10 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Louis. Okay, so our first question for
Louis, I was craving that applause.
Okay, so our first question for the group tonight is, given pressure from increased development and the desire of the city to unbundle parking and require less parking for new development along the boulevards, How would you protect the residents and stop spillover onto neighborhood streets? Would you like to start us off, Bill?
It's pretty simple. There are zoning codes that require parking in apartments, they require parking on site. I know the popular idea is unbundle parking, but in the Northeast Neighbors territory along Wilshire Boulevard, along the side streets, we can't do that. So let's hold on to our zoning, let's make sure a developer doesn't save money, and make sure that he gives the parking he's supposed to.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Nick. Nick Bowles.
Okay, well, I would say that the single biggest investment that we could make is in public transportation and alternative transit, specifically transit going north and south, to ensure that most of these residents are able to get across the city and not have to use a car. Because ideally, in the future, we would like to not own cars. They cost a lot of money, we're spending a lot of money just to put roof over our heads. And if we could get transportation that was smart enough and easier to use than an automobile, it would be highly effective. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Sue Himmelrich.
There may be a time when we're all ready to give up our cars, but it will probably be in next generation and not in ours. I don't think that the people here are ready to, or many of the people here, let me say, are ready to ride the buses to the subway and take it to downtown. And consequently, to reduce our parking at this point before our aging population is ready to have it taken away is a mistake.
Thank you. Whitney Scott Bain.
Well, first of all, what I'd like to bring up, has anyone noticed the parking meters in this area have changed daily from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. and there's no free parking on Sundays anymore? That's something interesting to look at. I agree. I agree. Anyway, what we need to do is we need to take care of parking for our citizens here. Either give them free parking. Mr. Lader has a great idea on that. And we should come first. Tourists come second.
Thank you. Next we have Jerry Rubin.
Well, I never had a car in my life, but I recognize that cars are necessities. You don't want too little parking or too much parking. If you can share parking and coordinate it, that's a positive thing that can be done smartly. I think we need tough transportation management plans, and we need to support the light rail, the blue bus shuttles, and make a concerted effort to get out of our car. I disagree. I think people are ready and willing to get out of their cars and reduce traffic.
Thank you, Jerry. Could you, next we have Richard McKinnon. So if you'll pass that down. Richard?
Number one job is to protect the residents in their neighbourhoods. So we need zoning that ensures that nobody can just drive up and start to park on your street, as has been happening, anybody who lives close to Wilshire, number one. Number two, it's ensuring there's the right amount of parking, not too much, not too little, in each of the developments or buildings or projects that go forward. And the third is to ensure that the park once and walk situation that pertains in the downtown doesn't then spill over everywhere else. So protecting the residents in the residential streets is our number one priority.
Okay, thank you. Kevin McEwen.
Well, let's start out by pointing out that unbundled parking is not city policy, okay? It's under discussion by some people, it's not city policy. It's very clear to me that anywhere where we're close to a residential neighborhood, we have to make sure that new development provides its own parking. Enough parking that nobody from that new development comes and tries to steal your space in your neighborhood. Now, there may be parts of town where unbundled parking will make sense immediately adjacent to a rail station. That's worth looking at, but unbundled parking citywide, no.
Terrence Slater.
Hello, folks. Yes, my idea for the parking situation in town, most of us out here already pay a price to park in front of our houses. So each resident would be paying a one-time fee to City Hall to get a hang tag. We park on the meters for free, we park in the structures for free. Our tax dollars built the structures. The residents need a break. If the city can't get their revenue out of the other 350,000 people that travel into our town every day, then do they need to pinch
Okay, thank you, Terrence.
it off our backs?
Okay, thank you, Terrence. We have Jennifer Kennedy.
First and foremost, I would make sure that in new development, that the amount of parking that's built is right-sized. Employers need to provide the amount of parking they need for their employees. That's one of the first things that's really important. Transportation demand management strategies, such as providing employees with bus passes and the like, and abilities to carpool is also very important. But I'll also be focusing on office space that changes hands and becomes another type of office space with more employees perhaps. They need to also do some parking management
Thank
as
you,
well.
Jennifer. Okay, thank you. Frank Gruber.
Hi, parking's sort of the black hole of planning. You want to actually make parking a little bit more expensive and less easy to get, because that is a way to reduce traffic. One of the great incentives for traffic is the availability of parking. However, the point is, so we should try to reduce the amount of parking. But I agree entirely that people, if it's a new development with the reduced amount of parking and the unbundled parking, they should not be able to get preferential parking stickers or hang tags for the neighborhood. Those should be restricted to the neighborhood.
Thank you, Frank. Next we have Mike Feinstein.
So I take climate change and quality neighborhoods seriously. I think we should have lower parking standards in the downtown next to the rail station along that area, where people who move in will be more inclined to move in without being heavy drivers, and they'll use more public transit. But along our commercial east-west boulevards near neighborhoods, I think we have to keep the current standards so we don't displace people into the neighborhoods. There's a big difference between downtown and the boulevards.
Okay, thank you. Zoe Montagne.
Yes, my experience was when I was living in 829 Broadway, that in an apartment of NMS Properties, I didn't have a car, but I had to pay for parking. And I don't understand how the biggest developer of single housing in the city forces the people to pay for parking when I don't have a car and I was riding a bicycle. So I'm penalized for not having a car and using bicycle. So I want to put that in your minds and research that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. John Mann.
I blame the city council and Santa Monica City employees for the chaos in our streets, the parking and traffic crunch. It's all about greed. Everybody blames development. But who wanted the development? That's the elephant in the room. We're on the verge of a war between pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists because of the incredible traffic. It's dangerous to ride a cycle these days.
Thank you, John. And our next question is going to be asked by one of our residents, Garland Allen.
Thank you, Amy. Many residents prefer living in Santa Monica because we have our own police force and response times are much better than they are in neighboring LA. We recently learned that police are frequently pulled away from the neighborhoods to attend to activity downtown. When Expo opens, inevitably there will be an increase in demand for these police, fire, and medical emergency services. What will you do to ensure that the neighborhoods remain safe and have adequate emergency services?
Okay, we're going to start with Jerry Rubin, and then we're going to go from this side all the way around to the other side.
We need to support the police. If they need more police, we need to be able to provide the resources to make sure it happens for the police and the firefighters. We need to support groups in the community that are promoting peace, like the Pico Youth and Family Center, and people working in the schools to promote peace and nonviolence, and to cooperate and work with the police to make sure we continue to have a safe city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Whitney Scott Bain.
Well, without question, it's like we do need more fire department, EMS, and police officials out there patrolling the streets. Tonight when I was coming over here, I saw a lot of police presence over at Santa Monica College, SMPD, SMCPD, and they maintained a really good peace. They had a really great presence. The more we have patrol cars, motorcycle cops, EMS out there to help our people, the more presence that people see this, the more they're going to be very well secured.
Our police force today is the same size it was 30 years ago, but they have 10 times more calls than they had 30 years ago. I'm particularly concerned about what will happen when the metro makes it difficult to travel from north to south in our city. I think that we may need more police, we may need to disperse them differently, but in no event should they be taken out of the neighborhoods to service events.
Also, we've had a couple members ask, we had talked originally about making sure that this really is a public meeting. And so, while I know we had talked about trying to keep the applause to a minimum, do feel free to applaud if you hear something that you like, but we'll just, try and be judicious with the time. This is a work meeting, and we do want people to feel involved and not stunted, but obviously we all are going to be conscious of the time, okay? Okay, thank you. All right, Nick Bowles is going to speak next.
Okay, well, I think we will definitely see increased traffic in the downtown area. And one potential way to solve this problem is taking a model that's currently used in downtown Los Angeles through their business improvement districts, called creating business improvement district patrols to take care of very low profile crime, so that we can still invest in police force, but not to the level to where they're dragging away from our neighborhoods where it's most important to have them. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Phil Brock.
Our police force has increased in size. We're presently at 442 personnel, I believe, at this time. However, that won't be enough once the light rail opens. We will need more police on our streets because they're not able to patrol our neighborhoods. They're averaging about 450 calls a day. Our fire department is at the same staffing levels as 2001. 31 firemen on the job. They're way understaffed. It's a danger right now for our residents. The next council has to improve staffing.
Thank you, Richard McKinnon. Yes, and it's okay to clap. This is, like I said, this is a good meeting. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Richard.
The police force recently reported that crime figures are at their lowest point for 50 years. The police in this city are doing something right. As a city council, you rely on the advice of the professional police and fire officers to tell you what is needed. And so I would advocate that the police chief be the one that inform us how many more police are needed, where you deploy them, and how you make them the most effective. It is clear that the disruptive effect of the train means that we will need more police and more fire. But let's rely on the professionals to tell us how many, when, and where.
Okay, thank you. We have Kevin McKinnon next.
Providing for public safety is one of the prime tasks of the city we want to take very seriously. We've talked about police, but we also know there are increasing fire calls, and I've been doing something about that. I met with the city manager's office on Monday, and when we hit our mid-city budget, mid-term budget, we're looking at adding additional fire personnel. We know the need is there. Of course, we try to contain costs, but we will put the people on the street to make sure you and your families are safe.
Thank you. Terrence Lader.
I think our city council, current and former, has taken their eye off the ball. The idea that they've been concentrating so much on the downtown area, our grid for the electricity, they turned all the lights off up on San Vicente. There's been people struck by cars jogging along there, and a number of things. We have one patrol car that comes up into that area. I think it's unfair for the residents in the northeast area to suffer because of the development that everybody's pushed for all these years. They've taken their eye.
Okay, thank you, Terrence. Next we have Jennifer Kennedy.
I definitely support increasing personnel, and I also support increased facilities as we move forward. New police officers, new firefighters, and facilities so that they can have the equipment they need in the places that they need it. As a result of the light rail cutting through our city, one of the most important things we can do right away, and I will support this immediately, and our community should support it as well, is make sure that our fire department, our police department are involved in the testing phase when this Expo Light Rail starts doing its testing before it starts carrying passengers, and we need to see them out there doing this testing together.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Next we have Frank Gruber.
Well, I'm extremely proud of the endorsements that I received from the police union and the firefighters union. And they gave it to me specifically because they trusted that I would pay attention to this kind of issue and make sure that we had the funding, that we had the funding to keep these services going. Sorry.
Thank you, Frank. Next we have Michael Feinstein.
Investing in public safety is investing in ourselves, and we need to ensure that we keep our high response times. That's part of what makes our quality of life here great. I live at the beach. I've seen a lot of really intense days with a whole lot of people here, and I'm confident that our police can handle that because we've already done it in all those days when we have hundreds of thousands of extra people in our city, 4th of July, Labor Day weekend, etc.
Thank you. Martinet?
As I said in my opening, I'm going to tell the truth. I have been critical of the police because I've had bad experiences with the police. However, I don't generalize it because I know there are great police officers and great servicemen that serve our society and serve our city. Last Saturday, there was an Oktoberfest, and several neighbors called me, and the police did nothing regarding the noise that was really taking a toll in the quality of life of our residents.
Thank you. John Mann?
Santa Monica is really a safe city. I haven't heard anything about the police tasering anybody. So I don't think there's a problem with public safety. I don't know what's going to happen after the light rail is in. But as far as hiring more police officers, what I would do is take away their 3-day week, 12 hours a day, 36 hours. And then they work 3 more days or 4 more days overtime. There's one police sergeant that's making $400,000 a year. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And hang on to the mic. We're going to have you start with our next round. And our next question is going to be asked by Ruth Ann Lair, who is one of our board members and a longtime, now former, unfortunately, Landmarks Commissioner. But we're glad to have her as part of our board.
Thanks, Amy. Welcome, everybody. This is a Wilshire Boulevard question. Wilshire Boulevard is not as transit-rich as originally envisioned in the Luce, or when compared with other areas of our city that are closer to Expo. Given this, would you support an amendment to the Luce that would remove Tier 3 maximums along Wilshire Boulevard?
Glad you asked that question. I would like to see the Luce repealed. I was supporting the Rick amendment. Thank you, I actually got some applause. I'm a pretty negative guy, so I don't expect to please a lot of people. But even with the Luce in place, there's a downtown specific plan, and they want to waive height limits. So no matter what plan we have, this city council is going to build as high as they can get away with, and we have to put a stop to that. And that's what residocracy is all about. Thank you.
One of the things that I like about Wilshire Boulevard is that it's not dense, and when I really want to move fast, I take Wilshire Boulevard. So in regards to that, I would like to see it, excuse me?
Please go ahead.
Okay. In regards to that, I would like to have at least an area of town that is easy to travel. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we have Michael Feinstein.
What I would support without needing further study is removal of the activity center designation along Wilshire Boulevard. I think that was an intensity that was predicated on thinking the subway was going to come here, and that's not going to happen for decades. I think it's worth studying what Ruth Ann suggested, but I wouldn't make that kind of decision lightly.
Okay, thank you. Frank Gruber.
Well, this proposal came up last week or so, I guess, at the Planning Commission. Quite frankly, I haven't studied it enough. I think it's an interesting idea because I'm not sure that the Tier 3 would kind of work anyway in terms of the lot sizes there. It might be just the best thing to do is just to get rid of it and say what we want there. But I think the other issue, part of this question, is that Wilshire should have better transit. I've never understood why the 3 bus went up to Montana rather than connected Lincoln with Wilshire and made that a much stronger transit route.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer Kennedy.
It's really important that the development that happens on on Wilshire Boulevard is either an adaptive reuse so that we can keep Wilshire Boulevard and have the neighborhood serving uses that we have now, and to not create any more regional drawing retail or businesses on Wilshire, and Actually, this issue didn't really just come up last week. As a result of Planning Commission discussions that have been ongoing for a while about the updated zoning code, we've been discussing the idea of removing the Tier 3 now for several months, and as it's been proposed so far, I support it.
Thank you. Next, we have Terrence Slater.
Yeah, my campaign signs are construction cone orange for a reason. We're really tired of living in a construction zone here in town. The idea that I worked with Bobby Shriver, Kevin McKeown, and Bill Rosendahl on Prop T to make a moratorium for 4 years on any development at all. And it was only defeated by a narrow margin. Some of the people that are sitting up here tonight could have supported that, and we could have had that moratorium.
Thank you, Terrence. Next, Kevin McEwen.
Well, I have studied this issue and I do support the amendments. You know, the pro-growth majority on our current city council is not represented here tonight. I'm not part of that pro-growth majority. I'm a slow growther. And I talked to Northeast Neighbors and Wilmot about this particular issue, and I actually brought it to staff and said, look, we need to amend the loose. The activity centers no longer make sense, and Tier 3 on Wilshire doesn't make sense either. So that's why it's before the Planning Commission, and when it comes to the City Council, I'll be your leading voice to end those in the loose.
Next, we have Richard McKinnon.
I've never thought the activity centres on Wilshire made any sense, nor does Tier 3, which is development applications, make any sense if you want to create Wilshire as a walkable, scaled road, a boulevard that people actually would like to enjoy. So removing Tier 3 is an immediate step, and then moving down the parameters on Tier 2 so you get predictable, reasonable buildings on that street and make it something again other than just a conduit for carrying as many cars as possible in and out of our city. And that is something I've asked the Planning Commission to do repeatedly over the last 12 months.
Thank you, Richard. Joe Brock.
First, I absolutely support the removal of Tier 3. I support the removal of activity centers. I'm in print as saying that 3 stories should be our maximum on our boulevards, 3 stories, which doesn't leave room for Tier 3. And Ruth Ann, I can't understand how you would say we don't have great transportation on Wilshire Boulevard. After all, we have new bus stools. I don't understand.
Thank you. Nick Bowles.
Thank you. I personally live right off of 20th and Wilshire, and I can say that one of the most pressing problems on Wilshire right now is trying to cross it. It is terrifying. I've seen pedestrians hit, and people have died on Wilshire. And I think that one of the biggest things that we can do is invest in crosswalks across Wilshire. As for transit going up and down Wilshire is fine, but the only thing we can use to go from north-south is the crosstown, which is very infrequent and needs to be rerouted.
Okay, thank you. Sue Himmelrich.
Well, thanks to many of the people I see in this room, staff has had an attitude adjustment about Tier 3 on Wilshire Boulevard and about the activity centers, or the so-called, I call them Tier 4 development. And I am against Tier 3 on Wilshire Boulevard. I am against the activity centers, and I'm against Tier 4 anywhere in the city. I think that right now, before the light rail comes in, it would be a mistake to do too much too fast.
Whitney Scott Bain.
Tier 3 needs to be abolished, and the hands of what goes on should be in your hand. I mean, it should be in your hands what the decision is here on Wilshire Boulevard. Everybody in this room and everybody in Santa Monica, you should decide what it should be.
Thank you. Jerry Rubin.
Well, first of all, number 3 bus rightly goes up Montana, and the number 2 bus rightly goes up Wilshire Boulevard. And every 5 minutes, there's a Metro bus going along Wilshire. It is a major transportation hub. I take it all the time. As far as Tier 3, I still believe that flexibility is important. No one wants to see overly tall buildings on Wilshire Boulevard, but you can never tell when that flexibility and balance might come in place. So I think we should keep that.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. And hold on to the mic. We're going to probably start with you and then go back the other way. Next up, Roger Hill is one of our residents. He's going to read the next question, and we may get some quick answers to this because it's a little bit related to the last one. Roger lives on Berkeley at the corner of Lipton and Berkeley, very close to where there is a proposed activity center, and so I hope you will listen carefully to his question. Thank you.
Good evening. My wife and I are 30-year residents here, and we have a real passion for living in Santa Monica, but like most people here, or everyone, we're very concerned about what's gone on over the last several years with excessive development. And to speed things along, a number of you have answered my question in advance, but for those that haven't, my question is as follows. Proposed complexes known as activity centers would allow denser projects on Wilshire other than are currently allowed next to the Expo light rail line. The one in Centinela, which is just a couple of blocks from my house, would be up to 70 feet tall and would be built right next to single-family homes with absolutely no buffer at all. So my question is, would you support an amendment to the loose that would remove activity centers on Wilshire? And if you already answered it, you can move along.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you, Roger. Jerry, would you go ahead and start? Well, it's activity centers, which is a little bit different. For those of us who have been following the loose, as Sue pointed out, it is additional height and density above Tier 3, to put it in perspective. Okay, go ahead, Jerry.
Well, I went to all the loose meetings, and I know they were proposed, and for me, if a building is skinnier and taller and allows more open space in it, provides more community benefits, and the council can weigh and balance that, and it might provide more low-income housing and affordable housing. It's not bad to look into that. So I still would keep that kind of flexibility.
All right, thank you, Jerry.
There's too much building everywhere in this city. It's just really gotten out of hand. So I'm with Roger.
Thank you. Sue Himmelrich.
As I stated in a planning commission meeting, we already have activity centers at all of those intersections, and we don't need different ones.
Thank you very much. Nick Bowles.
Yeah, I am a supporter of the land use circulation element. I believe that it is the constitution for growth here in Santa Monica. However, I do believe that our transportation has not caught up to be able to facilitate that type of growth. So I am okay with the land use circulation element as stated.
Okay, thank you. Next we have Phil Brock.
Well, you already know my position. Let's eliminate activity centers, let's amend the loose. And that building that Roger's talking about that would destroy that intersection. We don't want to be West LA. We want to be Santa Monica. 3 stories at that intersection is all that developer needs. He doesn't need 7 stories or 6 stories. We don't need wall-to-wall buildings as you enter Santa Monica. That would be a hell of a note. It has our city sign, a 7-story building right there. It's not needed.
Thank you, Phil.
The activity centres never made sense when proposed. They don't make sense now. They don't suit those neighbourhoods. They don't help Santa Monica. I will be asking that they be removed from the loose when it comes to the Planning Commission.
I've already driven a stake into the hearts of the activity centers on Wilshire. When it comes to the city council, I will bring garlic just to make sure that. But also, there's other things in your neighborhood you need to look out for. There's the Bank of America site. There's Jerry's Liquors. We need to be very careful that we don't destroy the residential neighborhood adjacent to Wilshire Boulevard by overdeveloping on sites that look very profitable right now to developers. That's why you need to shift the current pro-growth majority of the city council to a slow growth majority.
Terrence Slater.
I don't know how many of you folks have gone to the meetings when they interviewed everybody in the neighborhoods to put things into place, but after all of those meetings and the $1 million of consultants spent, doesn't it seem like everything comes back to status quo? We need to vote outside the box. We need to vote outside of anybody that was connected with the city's machine to put all of this stuff into action in the first place, okay? And no growth, and that's where we've got to draw the line.
Thank you. Next we have Jennifer Kennedy.
At a planning commission meeting this year on this issue, I talked to the staff because I recognized that there was perhaps some confusion about this issue in the community, about the activity centers and exactly what were they supposed to look like. And there were some people who participated in the loose process and some who didn't. So I asked staff if the activity center on Wilshire would resemble the corner of La Brea and Santa Monica with the Target, the Brentwood Country Mart, or Westfield Shopping Center, and their answer, and this is very general, but the answer was closer to La Brea and Santa Monica Boulevard in height, and if any of you are familiar with that, I immediately opposed the activity centers.
Thank you. Frank Gruber.
Well, I have to say that I'd be very skeptical of a 7-story building there, but I don't want to throw the concept of activity centers down the drain. The loose was a compromise, and those of us well, I observed it as a writer, and I think it should be amended. It should be amended to drastically reduce the amount of office development. But the activity centers were part of a compromise to keep development out of the neighborhoods. And the point of it was to focus on the boulevards in certain places to protect the neighborhoods, and there will be growth in that.
Thank you. Michael Feinstein.
I've been spending the last couple of weeks walking your beautiful neighborhood door to door and knocking on a lot of those doors, and I saw the flyers about the idea of 70 feet at the Bristol Farm site, and I was kind of flabbergasted because there's the parking lot, and then there's just really low houses right next door, so it was kind of unimaginable. I had earlier said that I would want to eliminate the activity centers, and like others have said, you cross the border into West LA, and it's just mega towers, and that would be out of scale with our city, unquestionably.
Thank you. Sally Montague.
I'm a neighbor. I live on Stanford Street between Broadway and Santa Monica, so I love my neighborhood. I love Santa Monica. I lived in several places in Santa Monica. And someone asked me this week in one of the questionnaire where my favorite street, and my favorite street is the one that I'm living right now because it's quiet. It's really residential. It fosters community. Everybody talks, everybody walks their dogs, and I want to keep it like that. So I'm opposing definitely the activity centers. Thank you.
Thank you. John Mann.
I think the city's already passed critical mass on building, not only on Wilshire Boulevard, but 4th and Arizona and all the other development agreements that are in the pipeline. What I want is a moratorium on all growth. The city has to include residents in these decisions from now on. We're the ones that are impacted. It's the city employees that want this growth because they get to feed at the public trough, and they're already well fed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Tricia Crane is going to ask our next question, and to mix it up, let's set it down to the middle. We'll start with Kevin on this one. Okay, Tricia.
Good evening. Many families struggle to afford a down payment for a home and then spend their lives paying off the mortgage, property taxes, bond measures, and maintenance. Ballot measures H and HH would make only homeowners responsible for funding affordable housing by tripling the transfer tax, so that a typical homeowner could end up paying $20,000 in a transfer tax instead of $8,000 upon sale of their home, regardless of whether or not they have made a profit, have health expenses, or retirement costs to pay. Do you think this is fair?
There's no way to answer that in 30 seconds, but let me say this is mostly about what kind of community we want to be. We want to have affordable housing for students, for working families, and we do. Our city charter requires us to do affordable housing. This measure is coming at a time when house values in Santa Monica have gone back to pre-recession levels, and it only applies at the time when you sell the property. The fee may be paid by the buyer. It's not like a property tax, it doesn't get assessed every year, and it's money we need to replace redevelopment money that was taken from the city for affordable housing. I support both measures.
Thank you, Kevin. Next, we have Richard McKinnon.
So I have been a renter here for 14 years through various circumstances. This tax doesn't alter my desire to buy housing in this city going forward. But what it does do is it continues to provide diversity in the people that live in this city, whether it's firefighters or teachers or others, who in a normal city and have a normal income would be able to buy and live in the city. This city is increasingly out of touch for a middle class person who wants to live here. That's the purpose of this tax, is to keep the middle class in our city.
Okay, thank you. Next one.
I would disagree heartily. Nobody should ever, no city should ask for a 600% increase in the tax. 600%. That should never happen in any city, anywhere. Santa Monica was only number 2 in LA County in taxation for this tax, so damn it, I'm an ex-athlete. I know I always want to be number 1. In this case, I want to lose the race. We don't need this tax. Nobody's justified this tax. It is a horrible, horrible tax to add to residents.
Thank you. Nick Bowles.
Well, I think the biggest thing to say, first of all, is that we are in a current emergency, and I can barely afford to pay my rent at current market rates. So we've lost the redevelopment agency. It's becoming extremely hard for us to survive if we do not own homes. And it's very important to invest in the diversity and socioeconomic status of different communities here in Santa Monica. So I would urge you to reconsider and really think about what type of people you want living here next to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also want to remind people that the question also is about fairness. So if you can, in your answer, respond to that, we very much appreciate it. Thank you. Sue Himmelrich.
Well, I want to differ with the premise of this question, because the premise, according to the way it was phrased, is that the homeowners will be bearing all of the costs. And that is not true. This will be a tax on any sale of any property in the city. So it doesn't only apply to residential, it applies to commercial as well. I am a homeowner. I've lived here in the same home since 1992, and I personally don't consider $9,000 for every $1 million that I make on my house to be too much of an exaction to remain a progressive city. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll make it simple. No on H, no on HH. Why should I go over and work 40, 50 years of my life, go over and decide to sell my house, I'm going to leave, and then I got to give you more money, and I'm not going to be able to benefit by it. That's like having a bank robber on a train, you know, the old Western, you know, give me your money. And it's like, well, okay, what do I do with it now? You know, it's like, well, too bad for you, it's mine. So, no on H, no on HH.
Thank you. Jerry Rubin.
Oh, I'd say yes on H and yes on HH. I agree with Kevin, I agree with Richard, I agree with Sue. The position against it almost sounds more like something Sarah Palin or Tea Party people would be pushing. It's just, we're a progressive city. There's people that don't like minimum wages, they don't like union, they try to take it out on community benefits. This is not unfair to ask of homeowners. You still, as Sue said, could have a progressive city, and we need to. The result of it is more benefit for the people.
Thank you. Okay, so now if you can pass the mic down to Terrence later, and then we're going to go that way. Jerry, would you mind passing the mic down? Thank you so much to Terrence.
Our city screwed the pooch on the redevelopment agency money. We spent it building a $100 million park down on Ocean Avenue for the tourists. We spent it on absolutely frivolous projects. The idea that somehow now the burden is back on the residents to come up with the money where they may not have, and they missed a lot of that money too, that they should have been able to keep to afford those developments. So.
Thank you. Next we have Jen. No. Okay, next we have Jennifer Kennedy.
Measures H and HH will enable the city of Santa Monica to have enough funds to build affordable housing without relying on developer-driven projects to get the required amount of affordable housing that we're required to build in Santa Monica. Having the funds to build this affordable housing for working families, seniors, and individuals, especially in our downtown, will help address our jobs housing imbalance and enable working families who do work in our downtown to live here.
Thank you. Next, we have Frank Gruber.
Well, I want to applaud the pro people who've spoken so far, but I want to talk about who this is for. I hear, as I go around, a lot of nostalgia and for the way that Santa Monica used to be. Well, the way that Santa Monica used to be, it was a blue-collar town. All those houses that now go for $2 or $3 million and are Nick Bowles and his friends can't buy them, those used to be for Douglas workers who were unionized workers, and those people can no longer afford to live in Santa Monica, and this law will now allow them to come and stay.
Thank you. Michael Feinstein.
The state has just destroyed our affordable housing stock with the Costa-Hawkins Act, which cost us over 20,000 affordable units, and then withdrew the redevelopment money we were using to fund new units. We stepped up with parcel taxes to pay for education locally when the state underfunded our schools, and this is another case where we're doing something with our limited and clumsy local taxing tools to try and backfill a responsibility of the state. The state really should be paying for this, and for the reason Jen said, it's better to do this by taxing ourselves than taking more big development.
Zoe Montanay.
Yes, once again, I'm going to speak from experience, and I echo Kevin. It's impossible to answer this question in 30 seconds. In New York, I live at an SRO, single room occupancy, at a YWCA for 5 years because I was going to school, and that's the only thing I could afford in Brooklyn, $500. And the students that are coming back to Santa Monica cannot afford living here, and we want them to be living here because they just bring new ideas from wherever they've been studying and wherever they've been traveling. So the only way to build affordable housing is with this H and HH. I vote yes.
Thank you, John Mann.
Santa Monica is a really, really wealthy city. We don't need any new taxes. I can't believe I'm going to say this. Read my lips. No new taxes. You know, we're losing diversity in this city, and we're not really, it's not really, the cause is there's just too many people here and it's too expensive to live here. We've got a completely new demographic in this city, and I blame the city council for that. They have this thing called, so-called affordable housing. Take a look at it sometime.
Okay, thank you. We're going to keep it moving. If you wouldn't mind, Jerry's going to answer first on your next round again. We're just going to keep going back and forth. And the next question, thank you so much. We'll get you guys up and moving around a little bit. Okay, the next question we have is, the buses we have in our fleet are too big to navigate the proposed new route on 26th Street north of Wilshire in order for residents to connect with Expo. We have proposed the use of small, local jitney-type buses that can navigate the traffic calming circle on the street and would be more in keeping with the low-density scale of our neighborhood. In some areas of our city, large, noisy 50-foot buses are being used on narrow residential streets, in particular in the Sunset Park neighborhood. If elected, would you support the use of only smaller buses on all residential streets throughout our city? Jerry, will you start us off?
What about the bus stop?
We'll have open questions in a minute. Go ahead, Jerry.
Again, take the bus all the time. The buses are a little bit quieter than they were a few years ago. But if the route would be accommodating of it, you might want smaller buses. You're going to pay the driver the same amount, bigger or smaller, so it has to be worked out in a coordinated way. The 7 bus, the 3 bus, they're going to need bigger buses. But if I still remember when we had the electric shuttles. I wish we could get back to doing that again.
Thank you, Jerry. Thanks, Scott. Bain?
The jitney buses are a great idea. Natural burning gas, that'll work. Second question to answer is, yeah, bring back the bus benches. Those new ones just really stink.
Since I've been looking at the bus program here, I've always thought that we needed north-south. I worked downtown for 20 years. There's a dash down there, smaller buses, seating less people. It could be electric, that would be less noisy too. I think that's a good solution. It might take an investment, but I think it would pay for itself in spades.
Thank you. Nick Bowles.
I also agree with having increased flexibility with our current bus systems. They should be extremely easy to use, fast, responsive, as well as be able to be geotagged and on demand if you need it. A lot of people would highly utilize smaller buses that are able to accommodate families as well as groups of small people that want to whether it's goats, groups of small, whether they want to go to the beach or to the metro line, whatever it is, flexibility is key and responsiveness is key, as well as arrival times. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Brock.
Our Big Blue Bus has already told us that they won't be able to provide great north-south circulation in our city. We need a dash system. The Big Blue Bus is an enterprise system that no longer really serves our residents in our city. And no, we don't need large buses in our neighborhood. We need small, simple buses. A dash system for Santa Monica residents with the light rail opening is an absolute must in our city. And you, sir, already know my position on the bus duels.
Thank you. Richard McKinnon.
The Big Blue Bus is so clearly a last generation provider, and it still runs those big buses as if that were the only thing. So we need a much different bus system going into the future, particularly connecting to the light rail, because clearly most of the neighbourhoods will not be able to use it the way the light rail and the bus system is structured. So some big buses are needed on those routes in and out of town near Pico, and clearly we need a sequence of smaller buses that are more frequent and provide a guarantee of service to every neighbourhood throughout this city. Otherwise, the light rail will be off the table for almost every resident.
Thank you. Kevin McEwen.
Over my time on the city council, I have moved the Big Blue Bus from diesel to biodiesel to now compressed natural gas. So, of course, I support the next step in the evolution, which is smaller buses. The balance we have to find is it does cost as much to operate a smaller bus as a larger bus, because the driver is a big part of the cost. So we have to make sure we have the ridership to fill those buses, to make the fares, to get these routes to be practical. But yes, on residential streets, smaller buses are the right way to go.
Thank you. Terrence Lader.
I grew up with the beach trams at the POP when we used to hop on the back of them, and they were great. I think that's a great idea, but I think we have to look at the big picture here. 4 years and $7 million and the city, that's what they came up with. It was those bus stops. Okay, this is totally out of control. The idea that those buses are going through neighborhoods that they shouldn't be going through is because of the construction that they have to be rerouted around. So it's with less construction, better shuttles in that regard, and a moratorium on our construction.
Thank you. Next, Jennifer Kennedy.
I definitely would support smaller, environmentally friendly buses, shuttles, smaller buses that are essentially shuttles that would go through our residential neighborhoods and fit on these streets that are going on a road diet to calm the traffic, to even divert traffic and make it safer for pedestrians and cyclists. But the key is I will really focus hard on making sure that we have that we do circulation management so that pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers can get around more easily throughout Santa Monica. We can't just focus on one mode of transportation.
Thank you. Frank Gruber.
Yeah, I want to agree with everything that's been said about the technologies and the flexibility and stuff like that, but I also want to maybe bring a note of optimism about this, which is that Santa Monica is in a very unusual position for transit lines like the Expo. Most ends of transit lines are either one place, usually just commuters getting on in one direction. This Expo line ends in a place, Santa Monica, where people will be getting off the bus to go to their jobs and getting on the bus coming from their homes. And this means that in effect, we can get twice the bang for the buck in terms of our investment in these north-south routes.
Thank you. Michael Feinstein.
The Expo line in ensuing years and decades is going to cause a positive transformation of our bus routes to involve more north-south routing to connect neighborhoods better to the line. Big Blue is recommending a Montana down 26th Street to the Bergamot Station line already, and I think it makes sense to look at a smaller bus to go along that line, including to get around that traffic circle that I voted for at 26 in Washington when I was on the council.
Thank you. Zoe Montana. Go ahead, Zoe.
The Santa Monica Mirror asked us this question, and I just received an email that they're posting it online. So we have more than 30 seconds to, if you want to go online, it's posted also on my Facebook page. I not only want smaller buses, but I want streetcars. Because it brings a character to our city. It brings a picturesque environment, and the tourists will love it and the residents will love it. So if you want to read more about my platform regarding transportation and this particular issue, go to my Facebook page, Zoe Montaner, or I'm going to be writing a blog in my website, zoeforcitycouncil.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you. John Mann.
Every time I run for city council, I hear all this rhetoric about how they're going to get rid of the traffic and parking chaos. Right now I'm channeling Jimi Hendrix, and he just sent me a message that what we need are electric jitneys. It would have to be done very carefully. I would like to have a resident review board of people who ride the buses sit down with the director of the bus company and tell them what we want. 3 buses, free.
Thank you, John. Okay, why don't you hang on to that? We'll probably start with you on our next question and probably our last one, and then you guys put your thoughts together. After that, we're going to open up the floor to questions from the community. So Tricia Crane's going to read our next question.
It seems to residents that candidates, once elected, lose touch with the people who voted them into office. How will you address this?
Oh, am I glad you asked me that. Virtual town hall. I think we're in the 21st century now, and this is a way, I mean, it's easier for millennials to understand this concept, but another way that we could get more feedback to the council from the citizens is to have resident review boards as well, where we go in and we sit down with staff, we tell them what we want.
Thank you, Zoe Montaner.
On my page, I'm not listed as a politician, I'm listed as a community. Because when I'm elected to city council, I'm sitting there representing you. I'm sitting there as a community leader. I'm not sitting there as a politician. Even though I'm the only person in this group that has, as a citizen, passed legislation with an unanimous vote for the Compassionate Santa Monica Initiative. So it's important to remind ourselves that the city council is the server of the people, not the ruler of the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Michael Feinstein.
Trisha's right about that trend. When you're in office, and I was in for 8 years, what happens is you tend to spend more time with people who have the same set of information that you do. And that's a small subset of the community, mostly inside City Hall, some outside. You have to be aware of that and continue to try and spend your time outside of City Hall listening to residents, and that's something that I love doing.
Thank you. Frank Gruber.
Well, to be quite honest, in my own view of it, part of this is because we're Americans, and we don't expect, government to do exactly what we want, and we're going to be dissatisfied with it. But to speak to, I think, the specific issue is that people elect people who tell them what they want to hear, and they can't deliver. I mean, people here could be talking about moratoriums and stopping housing from being built, but the state of California is not going to let the city of Santa Monica stop building housing. We had that. We got sued 20-some years ago and lost and had to pay Chris Harding's law firm $700,000. I like Chris, but I don't want to do that again.
Thank you. Jennifer Kennedy.
I think it's really important to stay active in the community and go to where residents are talking about the issues, make sure that they have an open line of communication all the time. And I, as your representative, would make sure that my line of communication is always open by phone or by email, or when you see me in the, at the grocery store, or whether I could see you at a community meeting of an organization, a neighborhood group. And I actually really appreciate hearing opinions that are different from mine, because it gives me a well-rounded picture. It's something that I've always pride myself on throughout my community service for the last 15 years, is listening to people with different points of view than my own, so I can learn more about how to serve the residents better.
Thank you, Jennifer. Terrence Later.
In 2006, I worked along with Ralph Nader to make sure that Prop W was defeated. The Oaks Initiative is a very important element here. We need to increase the city council's, double the city council's pay, but also current or former city council people should be forbidden to take any money from anybody as a consultant on a project in the city. The idea that our city council persons are for sale is a travesty.
Thank you. Kevin McEwen.
For 16 years, I've been known as the council member who shows up at public workshops, at public meetings, even block parties. I listen to people. And that means that when the pro-growth majority of the council bases their decisions on what it says in the staff report, I have a greater depth of information because I've talked to you about it. I show up at neighborhood groups. I've been a regular attendee at the neighborhood council, which is a monthly meeting of the neighborhood groups. I began as a neighborhood leader. I've never lost touch with that and never will, and that's my pledge to you as your city council member.
The past is always a predictor of the future, and so on the Planning Commission you get hundreds of emails and contacts. I do respond to every one of them, and I call people back, and North East Neighbours would know that, I think, in spades over the last couple of years. And at the moment, in winning this campaign, it will take me doing what I am doing, which is walking the streets every night, knocking on the doors of everybody through this city. And as Mr. McEwen said, you continue to turn up at every meeting throughout the city all the time. And so responding to emails, responding to telephone calls, knocking on every door, going to every meeting, it seems to me to be the only way that you actually know what a community or a series of communities feels or knows.
Thank you, Richard. Phil Brock.
I'm running with the support of everyday residents in every neighborhood of our community. I would expect that if I'm elected, that every one of those residents is part of my kitchen cabinet. And I would expect that I should be doing town hall meetings every month in every neighborhood of our community to keep in touch with our residents, because I thrive on the disagreements that I hear every day. That's what makes me better as a person. That's what makes me learn more and do better the next day.
First off, I think democracy is functional and works when we hold our electeds accountable. And sitting here right in front of an organization that acts as a watchdog for the Northeast neighborhood, a lot of that responsibility falls on you as well as me, depending on where we are in the city. So if there's an elected representative who is falling on deaf ears, it's time to rise up and put someone else in power who actually listens. Thank you.
I've had an open door and an open telephone policy since I've been on the Planning Commission, and I would hold open houses once a month if I were elected to the City Council, and invite whoever wants to come. I've always had an open house, and I'll continue to.
Thank you. Brittany Scott Bain.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Harry Truman, and John F. Kennedy always had open door policies. They always gave you 5-10 minutes to listen to you and wanted to hear what you had to say. That'll be my policy, sitting in my office. I'll be there Monday through Friday, alternating Fridays. And you come in, you come and see me, you email me, you phone call me, let's sit down, let's have a cup of coffee, and let's talk about your problems. I want to serve you. That's my job, is to serve the public.
Thank you. Jerry Rubin.
Well, I do think there should be at least one part-time staff person serving the city council to liaison with the community. I know how hard it is to be on the council or the commissions. I go to virtually every one of them, so they deserve a lot of respect. It's such hard work. I would probably hold the town hall meetings that Sue is rightly talking about, have my bumper sticker table on the promenade, and come out and talk anytime. But I would like to see the council members hold monthly town hall forums. So hopefully on the weekends, some more seniors could come as well.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, well, thank you everybody for your thoughtful answers. What we're going to do next, thank you everybody, is open up the floor so the community can ask some questions as well. So if I can get by you for just a second, Jerry, I'm going to walk in front of you. Trisha's going to take the microphone. I'm going to take this one and we're going to see how this works. And so, if we see a show of hands, okay, Farouk, why don't you come on up, and if you could say your name, and who you would like the question directed to, and your question, and I'll hand the mic to the appropriate parties.
My name is Farouk Allen, and I want to direct my question to Kevin McEwen. Here in this city, we keep talking about buses, but nobody talks about reliable buses. How could anybody decide to take the bus when you don't know when the bus is there? Right. And last time that I wanted to take bus number 3 that you talked about, it's 1 hour in between the buses. I have to be totally jobless to take these buses. So if you're doing the buses to connect it to the train, there must be an electronic panel. There must be a way to show the people when the bus comes so that they can use it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Farouk. Okay, what are your thoughts on how that can be improved going forward?
You just brought up one of the reasons why I supported there being any kind of change to our bus stops. These new bus stops were supposed to have live panels in them that showed you when the next bus was going to be. And when they were delivered, I found out only 37 of the bus stops in the entire city are going to have that. That's not what I thought I was buying. I agree with you. Now, there are apps for smartphones that will tell you when the bus is supposed to come. I'm working with the Big Blue Bus to have that information be not when the bus is supposed to come, but they now know through GPS where it is, when is it actually coming. That's what we need to know.
Okay, thanks. All right, and I'm also going to ask people, and Farouk, you did a wonderful job, be expedient with your questions, and we'll try and be expedient with our responses, and then we'll be able to get to more people. So, okay. 30 seconds. Sorry, sir. Go ahead with your question. What is your name?
I'm George, and I live right on 6th Street. I agree with Mr. Whitney Bain about the crosswalk, need for the crosswalk at Ken Edwards. My question is for Jennifer Kennedy. Just simply, what do you think, what is your opinion about rent control?
Thanks for the question. I think, thanks, rent control is really important for Santa Monica, and rent control is really important for other cities, but rent control is already part of the fabric of Santa Monica. It enables people to put down roots in our city. Rent control isn't just about price controls when you move into a rent controlled apartment and the rent can only go up a certain amount, but eviction protections are also built into the rent control law, and that allows families, individuals, and seniors to have security in their units.
Thank you, Jennifer. Who do we have next?
Larry Skewes, and this is for Kevin McEwen. By the way, Kevin, thank you for coming. I wish some of the other council would come too. And I want to thank all of you for coming and giving your input. I'm asking you about Bergamot. I think I'm proud of all of us that stopped the Hines overdevelopment thing. That was very good. I'm proud of all of us. Now, what do you think about the current, I'm upset because the current thing with Bergamot, as far as the parking, I was there when you guys voted, as far as many of us think that with the parking situation, which was a compromise, what do you think of the development coming into Bergamot? Many of us feel it's going to ruin Bergamot. What do you think of the parking scenario, and also what needs to be done so overdevelopment doesn't ruin the Bergamot art galleries.
So I think the gentleman's talking about the Bergamot Art Center.
30 seconds. I actually led the council effort to turn down the overdevelopment of Bergamot. We went with a plan that will preserve the galleries. And as far as the parking, I'm working with a third party who owns land in the area, who appears willing to work with us to put a parking structure on that land, which will serve the Bergamot Arts Center, will serve the needs of the rail station, and will mean that we don't have to dig underground to Bergamot, destroying the galleries. So I think we've found a workable solution to that.
Thank you.
It's not wireless tonight, so you're gonna have to come up.
Folks are going to have to come up. Thank you. Okay, we have Lewis Perkins, another one of our board members.
I go to some places in Beverly Hills and it says no parking unless you have permit Z between the hours of 8 in the morning and 6 at night. And it's very peaceful in those communities. You can walk your dog, you can actually have a few cars that are parked there. What do you think about not this 2-hour parking, and on Wednesday there's no street cleaning and it was completely full all the way from Wilshire up to Montana. So what about exclusive no parking unless you live there?
Okay, who would you like the question to go to?
Residents in specific streets and, I don't care.
Do you want a thumbs up or thumbs down for everybody, or just from one candidate?
Thumbs up. No, we get it.
The more people, anybody that wants to address the issue.
Why don't we, we'll pull an audible here. We're going to go down the line and tell me whether you would support that or not.
Sounds worth looking into if it's working somewhere else.
I support it.
We already have it in some neighborhoods, and I too would support it.
Okay, so what we're talking about, in some neighborhoods there's preferential, oops, sorry. Probably helps if I have a mic. I think what Lewis is getting at, in some neighborhoods we have a preferential parking permit program where they have a permit so they can park in that neighborhood. Not all streets have them, and so the question...
No, I'm not talking about preferential, I'm talking about no parking unless you, from work...
Unless you have it, okay. So this would be a resident-only parking pass. Would you support resident-only parking passes for certain neighborhoods?
Well, we already have that where I live off 21st and Wilshire. The entire street is residential only parking. So I don't know exactly which areas you would be talking about. However, depending on the area.
Try northeast neighbors.
Okay.
The rest of the residential neighborhoods.
Okay, so depending on the street, yes, of course. Yeah, it works very well.
Yes.
So parking is a patchwork of different zones all over the city, and you might live in a street that has something that someone a street away doesn't have. But there is preferential parking zones that do exactly what you say in some parts of the city. There are people who lived on 22nd Street who oppose preferential parking and now support it. What we do need to have is uniformity across the city, and we need to protect the residents and protect their ability to park in the street. That's what you're looking for, yes?
I don't think we need uniformity across the city because different neighborhoods have different needs. We do have neighborhoods that have no parking without a permit. I have voted for that, and I will vote for it again where appropriate.
I agree as well. Where my office is at Broadway and Euclid, we have a school that's called PS1 that has 300 cars come through twice a day to pick up and drop off their children. This has been a sweetheart deal with the city for over a decade now, and this kind of thing with our parking has got to stop. We need to take care of the residents. The residents need priority with our parking.
Yes, I would just like to say my answer to that question is yes, and I live on 21st Street like Nick Bowles, and so I also see what happens in the Northeast Neighbors neighborhood with employees parking as wherever they can find a place, and then they walk to the boulevards to go to work, and it is very disruptive, so short answer is yes.
I'm with the people who think that it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. I think that you can practice with block by block. I'm a big supporter of preferential parking. I think it's very important. But like in my neighborhood where we're getting it, it's coming in, down across the street from my house is a public park, Los Amigos Park. And if you had only resident parking there, then other residents from the neighborhoods who are bringing their kids to play Little League Baseball there wouldn't be able to park. And there's enough parking. So you really have to use this as a parking management tool. And I think it's more sophisticated than saying one size fits all.
Preferential parking is art, not science. It should be tailored to fit the individual street. And we have to remember that we're both residents and we're visitors. The fact is that neither commercial nor residences have enough parking. That's why we have the problem. And there are times where you're trying to visit a business and there's not enough parking there. And if we take it all away, then what we do is we force commercial places to redevelop with bigger projects on site so they can afford underground parking. It's tough.
There's nothing that affects your quality of life more than parking. Because you can wake up very eager to take the day, and when you have a parking ticket, the rest of your day is gonna be, tough. So I'm really supporting this because I have many parking tickets because sometimes, I told you I'm gonna tell the truth. So yes, the Wellbeing Project then on the other hand is supposed to support us.
What is it about politicians? They have to talk on and on and on. The answer is yes. Leave it up to the residents.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, and, we have our next community member.
Hi, I'm Stacia Barbanel. We've talked a lot tonight about the adverse effects of commercial development. In our neighborhood, we're also seeing some adverse effects of speculative residential development in Northeast Neighbors. And we're seeing houses maxed out, every tree taken off the lot, and foundations built on mounded up properties. So these houses tower over their neighbors. I'm wondering if the people on the Planning Commission can comment on if you feel motivated to address this issue at all.
Okay, thank you. We'll work from left to right with planning commissioners. It's Susan Moritz.
We are in the new zoning ordinance, we are addressing this with the help of many people in your neighborhood, because we're aware of the issues relating to setbacks and how you determine height and deep wells next to the house, etc. And we talk about it all the time.
So the issue north of Wilshire is that people dig out the basement from side to side, and then that enlarges the overall size of their house, which allows them to have a bigger valuation on the house. So that needs to be stopped, and we need a relationship between the basement and the size of the house, which would ensure that the overall size of the house isn't increased by the basement. What we've had is a mansionisation, and that is not in the keeping of Santa Monica. What we have is an appropriate size of house for an appropriate size of lot. And yes, we are on that job, and we're attempting to keep this mansionisation under control.
Keeping the adverse effects of nearby business areas out of the neighborhoods includes a lot of the things that we talked about here tonight. Making sure that parking is managed very carefully so that employee parking doesn't spill over into the neighborhoods. To make sure that we can, that development for, pressure for massive development doesn't take hold, is not allowed to happen, and so that we retain our small businesses, which make it much easier for us to enjoy our neighborhoods. And it's also about how we regulate the businesses that actually are on the boulevards to make sure that the adverse impacts of those, businesses staying open late, for example, don't happen in it.
Okay, thank you. We have our next community member.
Hi, my name is Neil Cohen. I'm a resident on 11th Street in California. I'm going to ask a kind of naive question to Kevin because you're an incumbent on the board. During the Heinz situation, I and a lot of my neighbors were appalled by the behavior of staff. In fact, people who came to council meetings for the first time thought staff was the developers and had to be educated that the staff actually works for us. So how could you re-educate or fire certain people on staff?
I'll start my 30 seconds now. Let's be clear where the blame lies, okay? Because city staff works for the city council. And right now, they're working for a clearly pro-growth, pro-developer city council. Heinz knew they didn't have to negotiate with the planning commission because they knew they had 4 votes at the city council. You give me a slow growth majority on our city council, you'll see major changes in how the process is held.
Next community member.
Paula Goldman. I don't know
fellow parent and as a Santa Monica resident, I've seen lots of problems occur because there's not a lot of communication between the district and the council. And I would like to see more of that, and so, particularly with transportation issues that have been a big mess in the civic redevelopment partnership that I'm hoping for. What could one of you say? Who's going to pick it about? How would you? Oh Jesus! To facilitate communication between SNMUSD and the council, Mr. Gruber.
Well, it's funny, again, I was very pleased to get the, I was very.
Please go ahead.
Well, Trish.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, sir.
Okay, well, I was very pleased when I got in my interview for Community for Excellent Public Schools, that a lot of the questions were about that. And I'm also on the civic working group to involve with that. And next week, there's going to be a tour, and so is Phil. We're going to start taking tours of the high school, because everybody on that working group, and I think everybody on the city council, which charged us, and we put Carrie Upton on, they put Carrie Upton on the board to make sure that communication happens. Because another thing that happened when we lost redevelopment was the chance for the city to participate with the school district in the redevelopment of that. And now it has to happen in some other way.
I think, we've only got a few more minutes and we've got 3 more people. I do think that's a great question, but actually what I would recommend, because everybody says they have open door policies, is that perhaps they can get in contact with you and we can even provide it to our members if you have other candidates who'd like to weigh in on that response. Yes, and so we're going to have some time to mingle afterwards, but I do want to get to everybody's questions. So, okay, why don't we go to the next person?
Yeah, you know, I decided to ask Nick. Because Nick, my husband and I moved to Santa Monica. We were, you know, a long, long time ago. We're grandparents now. Our equity is in our house. And, you know, when we were your age and younger, I shopped at Salvation Army, you know, we were so frugal, and I want to know how this transfer tax is really going to be fair to us, because our house is our equity. And you can explain this to me, because I'm really not sure what this transfer tax involves.
Yeah. So the transfer tax is, at the end of the sale, you get assessed, currently it's, I believe, $3 and it's going up to $9. And what's that? Per thousand, on homes that are worth over $1 million, right? So yours isn't? Okay. So then it wouldn't affect you. Anyway, what I want to say is I know exactly what you're talking about. My family, my father just sold his house this year, and it was his entire nest egg because he couldn't find employment. So that was his equity, and now he has, I think, about $500,000, and I'm actively managing his retirement. So I completely understand how important it is as a nest egg. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to go through that, and maybe some folks we'll have a little bit of time to talk afterwards, and people can talk further about some of these questions. Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, we'll probably go for a raise of hands for anyone that's interested. And this probably won't win me any friends, but slow growth politics is pretty ubiquitous in California right now. And because of that, I think that the housing supply is pretty suppressed. And if cities don't identify locations for increased density where it's appropriate, how do we house the future without continuing the sprawl that we've seen in how California developed in the 70s and 80s?
Okay, you'll have to pick somebody. You got to choose somebody.
Michael.
Okay, here we go.
I think it just makes sense to put future housing density in our downtown near light rail stations and lower the parking ratios there so people are less likely to drive. That makes it the least impact while getting the bang for our buck. And we have to get a lot more parks and open space, because with 70% of the people renters and the densest coastal city in California, if we're going to take housing density, we have to keep it a livable city by having a lot more open space. And those two things have to go hand in hand.
You can stop now.
What's your question?
Hi, my name is Ann Thanawala. This question is for Jennifer, since I can only ask it to one person. My question is this: all the talk about affordable housing, and I'm all for affordable housing. My issue is that when I'm spending city taxes to bring other people into our community, and that's who is getting the affordable housing, I want to know what percentage of city residents actually receive the affordable housing.
Well, when, so I don't have a percentage that I can tell you, but I don't have a percentage to tell you, but I can tell you that affordable housing, people in Santa Monica who are, for example, evicted from their apartments through no fault of their own, for example, if the owner goes out of the business and invokes the Ellis Act and displaces the tenants, those tenants have priority to go to the top of affordable housing lists here in Santa Monica. In addition to that, people who get to the top of the list for the available affordable housing in Santa Monica are seniors and people who are disabled. So the affordable housing does go to existing residents and people who already work here. And H&H is local money that will enable us to continue.
Okay, go ahead, Louis.
By a yes or no from each of the candidates, do you believe that the employment in Santa Monica has doubled in the last 10 years while the population has increased by 10%? That we need to reduce the employment base of the city of Santa Monica?
When you say employment, you mean the city employment?
City, not the product, how do I say this?
Employment in general, yeah.
Not employment in general, obviously, but the employment, people employed by the city of Santa Monica has doubled in 10 years.
And so
Should that be reduced, or is it okay the way it is?
Okay, so.
Yes or no?
Are you talking about city staff? Are you talking about actual?
Yeah, the question is.
People employed by the city of Santa Monica.
Yeah, the ratio of employees to residents has increased. The ratio of city employees to residents has increased over the last 10 years. And the question is, do you think that that needs to be reduced, or is that okay? So let's get show of hands that you think that needs to be reduced.
That's a trick question. It's not a simple yes or no. Extrapolate.
And not in our last question with 2 seconds left.
We got a few seconds.
We're revolting. No, we won't.
All right, do you want to exclude public safety?
That council you.
Okay, well, I think the answer is it's complex, and that one's going to have to be answered afterwards, because we do want to get to our last question, and we wanted to allow a few seconds for you guys to do closing comments, so why don't you go ahead, and we will definitely have that as a hearty discussion afterwards.
City staff will contact you.
Thank you. My name is Charlie. With all due respect, nobody ever here talk about creating new jobs. It seems like the spoiled child who is talking about their toys that they already have, rather than how they are going to pay for the future toys. I think the question is, what are you doing, any of you, in regard to relocating companies to Santa Monica to people who have more jobs? Next thing, the train is the train to nowhere. That train is going to nowhere. The third thing, the blue bus,
Thank you.
is never to be seen. I'm still walking.
Okay, thank you. Do you have a particular person for your question?
It's like a stand-up act.
I don't understand.
That was a comment, not a question. City staff.
I think it was a comment. Okay, that's fair enough. That was a comment, not a question. Who would you like it for? Okay.
We have a jobs housing imbalance in Santa Monica. We have 250,000 employees here during the day and 90,000 people who live here. 200,000.
200,000
I'm
city
sorry.
employees.
Not city employees. He wasn't daytime population, okay, right. Daytime population of 200 to 250,000, many of whom are employees. So we have 4.5 million feet of office space just in the Water Garden alone, that area. We do not need more jobs here, we need more housing here.
What we're going to do, I don't even know which one to use. What we're going to do next is each person will be given 30 seconds to do a closing statement, and I'm hoping they won't kick us out of here before the end of that. And so, Jerry, why don't you go ahead and start off with a 30-second close for our community.
Thank you very much. I support our municipal employees rather than privatizing everything. I support our union workers. I support more for the arts and culture. That's why we saved Chain Reaction. We're working to save the Muir Woods mural. And I know Frank Gruber and Phil Brock working to help save the Civic Auditorium, which is a gem. Thank you again for putting this on. I urge everyone to get involved, continue asking the hard questions, and make sure you vote on November 4th.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Okay, Whitney Scott Bain.
Thank you for being here tonight, and if you want to hear more or see more about me, go to smvote.com, or else look at the videos that we did on YouTube. Thank you.
Sue Himmerich.
Hi, I'm Sue Himmelrich. I do have an open door. You can call me, you can come to my house. I'm happy to talk to you. I talk to many of the people in this room on a frequent basis. And I would really appreciate your vote, either in early voting or on November 4th.
Thank you. Nick Bowles.
I just want to say thank you, everybody, for having me, and also thank you for stepping up and representing your neighborhood. It's absolutely needed in our democracy and our entire system. So thank you. If you guys ever want to hear more information about me, there's tons of forums coming up over the next month. I also have a website at bowles2014.com for you to get more information, as well as out there. So thank you. My name is Nick Bowles, and I hope you'll vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Phil Brock.
I'm Phil Brock. I've been a Recreation and Parks Commissioner in this city for over 11 years. I've volunteered in this city for over 40 years. I'm a native of this city. My mother was born here. I care deeply about Santa Monica. I care about not having high rises on Ocean Avenue. I care about having set density and height limits in our city. And I care about making sure our residents in this city come first each and every day. BrockTheVote.org.
Elections are always about the future, and this election is a crossroads election. The people you elect will decide which direction this city goes in for the next several generations. The reason I run is bringing a powerful record to put residents first, to control development, and to turn the city a deep green to answer the biggest challenge that we have in our life and lifestyles. That is why I ask you to vote for me on November 4th, and if you are absentee voting, right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin McEwen.
Yeah, I don't think I need to stand. I'm tall enough to be seen from the back row. I'm Kevin McKeown. After 16 years on the council, I got to tell you, I'm tired of being on the short end of votes on overdevelopment. I really need some help and some allies on the city council. I've been endorsed by the Residocracy Network of residents in the city. I'm also supported by Santa Monicans for Renters' Rights, by the Santa Monica Coalition for a Livable City, the Santa Monica Employees Coalition, including endorsements from both our police and fire departments. So obviously I've been there doing the job for the residents, and I want to keep doing it. I'm Kevin McKeown.
My website is Vote Now for Later. The idea that our city keeps running the budget over the edge and we are stuck to pay for it. The rotation of leadership, we need term limits. Rotation of leadership provides healthy government. The idea that we can make our town a better place with the input. I love this. I've run a couple times, and I have not seen in any of the previous elections the town input that we're getting this one. So I really appreciate that. Vote now for later, and my phone number will not change once I'm elected.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer Kennedy.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Kennedy, and I am running a community-based grassroots campaign for election for city council. And I have the very generous support of residents throughout this city as a result of my service to the community on several city boards and commissions, and also in the school district on numerous district advisory committees, including the preschool district advisory committee, the strategic plan advisory committee. My son goes to Franklin Elementary. I'm very concerned with issues like public safety in our community, safe and wider sidewalks, safe streets, and I hope that you'll vote for me. You can email me at jenniferfkennedy@gmail.com.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hi, I want to thank you for coming out tonight. I really find it a privilege to be running in Santa Monica. I love the city. I've been here for a long time, and I've been to participate in the city for a long time. The basis of my campaign are progressive principles, good jobs, affordable housing, quality education, and a healthy environment. Those 4 things I think are the pillars of progressive policies, and I hope you support me. My website is www.choosefrank.net, and that's what I'd like you to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Feinstein.
Yeah, Michael Feinstein. For those of you who know me, I've had 8 years on the council and as a mayor, so if you liked it, you can vote for more. For those of you who don't, I'm a beach person. I really want to keep our beach town feel, and my philosophy in governing is to talk and listen to everybody and try and bring people together so that our community feels good about the direction we're going in. I have those political skills. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, some of you will agree with me that our city is out of control, and I will fight to get your city back. My t-shirt says, vote for love, and it's love for Santa Monica. If you love Santa Monica, you vote for me. Because I bring progressive policies, I represent a lot of different groups. I am bilingual, I was born in Puerto Rico, so I will represent all the different communities that live in the city. It's important that you take time to really read the literature and the different pamphlets that get into your mailbox, because some of them are deceptive. So vote for Zoe, City Council. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Zoe. And last we have John Mann.
The Alpha, the Omega, the last will be first. You know, one thing that concerns me about every election that I've been in, we always end up voting for smear candidates and candidates endorsed by the city employees. I'm running because I want to take special interests out of politics. I'm running a paperless, penniless campaign because I want to take money out of politics. I'm John Mann, and I approve that message.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to give a big round of applause to all of our candidates. Put this event together and ask some tough questions. You guys are amazing. And I hope this was an informative event. And if they don't kick us out, I would recommend we all head outside. We'll give you an opportunity to talk a little bit more with the candidates. And again, remember to get out the vote. Thank you.